There's a moment in every currency collapse when governments stop pretending and start controlling. It happens fast, shockingly fast, often overnight. You go to sleep in a free market economy. You wake up and the government has frozen your bank account, criminalized your savings, and made it illegal to protect yourself. This isn't a dystopian fantasy. It's a recurring historical pattern, a stark warning for investors, citizens, and economists alike. This is stage 4, government desperation. This is the stage where leaders, unable to admit their policies failed, choose authoritarianism over honesty, where control replaces confidence, where emergency powers become permanent. And here's what terrifies people who study history. Stage 4 follows an identical script every single time. The same measures, the same sequence, the same failures. Rome did it in 301 AD. America did it in 1933 and 1971. Venezuela did it starting in 2013. Zimbabwe, Argentina, Hungary, Turkey. Different centuries, different continents. Same desperate playbook. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you that playbook. Every measure, every failure, every warning sign that stage 5 is inevitable. Because stage 4 moves fast, usually 6 to 18 months from first measures to complete failure. And most citizens don't see it coming until they're trapped. You'll learn the exact sequence of controls, why they always fail, how to recognize them starting, and what comes next. Because what comes next is stage 5, total collapse. And once stage 4 begins, you have months, not years, to prepare. Let's begin with the oldest example we have. In 301 AD, the Roman Empire was in late stage 3. Inflation was rampant. The denarius had collapsed from 50% silver content to barely 5%. Prices doubled every few months, eroding the wealth of merchants and citizens alike. The economic stability of the vast empire was crumbling under the weight of currency debasement. Emperor Diocletian faced a choice: admit the currency debasement had failed, or blame someone else and impose controls. For an emperor whose authority was tied to the stability of the state, admitting failure was not an option. He chose controls, a decision that would echo through millennia. The Edict on Maximum Prices, issued in November 301 AD, was the most comprehensive price control system in ancient history. It set maximum prices on over 1,000 goods and services, everything from wheat to wagon transportation, from shoes to teachers' wages. This sweeping decree aimed to halt inflation by legislative fiat, a classic example of government overreach attempting to defy economic law. The penalties for noncompliance were draconian. The penalty for charging more than the maximum price? Death. The penalty for hoarding goods? Death. The penalty for refusing to sell at government prices? Death. This extreme enforcement highlights the desperation and the authoritarian nature of stage 4 measures, where economic dissent is treated as a capital offense. Diocletian's logic seemed sound to him. The problem isn't our debased currency. The problem is greedy merchants raising prices. We'll force them to sell at fair prices. This narrative, blaming external actors rather than internal policy failures, is a hallmark of governments entering stage 4. It deflects responsibility and justifies severe intervention. Here's what happened. Within months, goods disappeared from official markets. Farmers stopped bringing food to cities because they couldn't cover costs at mandated prices. Merchants closed shops rather than sell at a loss, understanding that economic reality trumps imperial decree. Manufacturers ceased production as the cost of inputs exceeded the controlled selling prices. The black market exploded. Citizens, desperate for necessities, paid 300% to 500% over official prices on the illegal market while government markets sat empty. This phenomenon, where official channels dry up and illicit ones flourish, is an inevitable consequence of price controls. It demonstrates the resilience of market forces against state intervention. The government responded with raids, arrests, and executions. It didn't matter. You can't arrest your way out of economic reality. The edict, despite its brutal enforcement, failed to restore order or supply. Instead, it crippled legitimate commerce and fostered widespread corruption. By 304 AD, just 3 years later, the edict was quietly abandoned. The controls had failed completely. But they'd accelerated Rome's collapse by destroying what remained of productive commerce, eroding trust, and demonstrating the futility of command and control economics. This is the pattern you're about to see repeated through 1,700 years of history. The measures change. The technology changes. The failure is always the same. Before we examine specific examples, you need to understand the sequence, because it's always the same. The speed varies, but the order is identical. This playbook is a critical analytical tool for investors and citizens to recognize the early warning signs of economic collapse. Step 1. Blame the victims. Governments never say, "Our policies failed." They say, "Greedy merchants are raising prices. Speculators are attacking our currency. Hoarders are creating shortages. Foreign enemies are sabotaging our economy." This prepares the public to accept emergency measures, shifting blame away from the government's own fiscal mismanagement. Step 2. Price controls. Always the first control. We'll stop inflation by making it illegal to raise prices. Sounds logical, even appealing to a public suffering from rising costs. However, it never works. Because you can't repeal supply and demand by decree, you only distort markets and create shortages. Step 3. Capital controls. When price controls fail and the currency keeps falling, governments trap the money. This includes limits on withdrawals, restrictions on foreign exchange, and prohibitions on moving money abroad. The goal is to prevent capital flight and maintain the illusion of control, but it effectively traps citizens' wealth. Step 4. Rationing. When price controls create shortages, governments take over distribution. We'll ensure fair access, they claim. This really means we'll decide who eats and who doesn't. Rationing systems often become tools for political control, rewarding loyalty and punishing dissent. Step 5. Forced currency conversion. The old currency failed, so we're issuing a new currency. You have 30 days to exchange your old money at our rate, or it becomes worthless. This is confiscation disguised as reform, a direct assault on citizens' savings. It's a desperate attempt to reset the economic clock, often at a massive cost to the populace. Step 6. Criminalization of alternatives. When citizens flee to gold, foreign currency, or cryptocurrency, governments make it illegal. Only criminals avoid our currency, they declare. This step aims to eliminate competition to the failing national currency, maintaining the illusion of its value even as it plummets. Maintaining this illusion matters more than citizen survival. Step 7. Emergency powers. Temporary measures become permanent. Constitutional protections are suspended. For the economic emergency, they assert. And emergencies, once declared, rarely end. This final step solidifies authoritarian control, often under the guise of national security or economic stability. This playbook is 1,700 years old, and it's being followed right now in multiple countries. This historical consistency is a sobering warning for economists studying contemporary crises. Let me show you how fast it unfolds. Venezuela gives us the clearest modern example because it was documented in real time with smartphones and social media. It serves as a stark, recent case study for how quickly a resource-rich nation can descend into economic chaos under the weight of stage 4 policies. 2013, stage 4 begins. January 2013, President Maduro announces price controls on essential goods. Official inflation is 20%. Maduro blames economic war by right-wing saboteurs and foreign powers. This is step 1, blame others, perfectly executed, setting the stage for further intervention. 2014, controls expand. April 2014, government creates SUND, the Superintendency for the Defense of Socioeconomic Rights. Its purpose? Enforce price controls with police raids on businesses. Store owners were arrested for usury and economic sabotage. The crime? Raising prices to cover costs. Shortages begin. Toilet paper, milk, flour, basic goods disappearing from shelves, a direct consequence of prices being set below production costs. 2015, capital controls and rationing. February 2015, government implements fingerprint rationing. Citizens were scanned at stores, limited to specific quantities of goods, and tracked in a government database. Currency controls strengthened. limiting citizens to $300 per year for travel. The black market exchange rate diverged dramatically from the official rate, signaling a complete loss of confidence in the bolivar. 2016, military takes over food distribution. April 2016, government creates CLAP system, local supply and production committees. The military controls food distribution. You get food based on political loyalty. Support the government? You eat. Protest? You don't. This is stage 4 in action. Food as a political weapon, a chilling example of how economic controls morph into social control. 2017, currency confiscation and emergency powers. August 2017, government announces monetary reconversion. The bolivar is redenominated, 3 zeros removed. 1,000 old bolivares equals 1 new bolivar. This is a 99.9% confiscation of nominal value disguised as a simplification, a direct attack on the savings of every Venezuelan citizen. 2018, complete crisis. By 2018, Venezuela is in full collapse. Inflation exceeds 1,000,000% annually. Store shelves are bare. 90% of the population cannot afford food. The healthcare system has collapsed. 7 million Venezuelans, 25% of the population, have fled the country. The timeline: 5 years from first price controls to complete societal collapse. That's stage 4 speed, a devastating lesson for any economist studying the impact of interventionist policies. Zimbabwe shows us how fast stage 4 can move, offering an even more rapid descent into economic ruin than Venezuela. This case highlights the extreme fragility of economies when governments aggressively defy market principles. 2005, Operation Reduce Prices. May 2005, President Mugabe launches Operation Reduce Prices, forced price rollbacks on all goods. Police and youth militia were deployed to enforce controls. Store owners were arrested. Goods confiscated. Businesses shut down. This immediate, aggressive enforcement of price controls quickly decimated the formal economy. Within weeks, official markets emptied. The black market exploded, becoming the primary source for goods, albeit at exorbitant prices. Inflation accelerated dramatically, demonstrating the futility of trying to legislate prices without addressing the underlying monetary expansion. 2006, currency chaos begins. Government removes 3 zeros from the currency. $1, 000 becomes $1. This redenomination, a desperate attempt to restore confidence, solved nothing. Inflation continued its relentless climb, quickly rendering the new currency as worthless as the old. 2007, controls intensify. More zeros were removed from the currency. Withdrawal limits were imposed, trapping citizens' funds in banks. The black market exchange rate was 10x the official rate, a clear indicator of the currency's true value. Citizens had to queue for hours at banks to withdraw daily limits that couldn't even buy a loaf of bread, illustrating the profound impact on daily life. 2008, complete collapse. Peak monthly inflation reached an astronomical 79.6 billion%. The government resorted to printing $100 trillion notes that couldn't buy bread, a stark visual representation of hyperinflation. The currency had become utterly meaningless, destroying all savings and economic stability. January 2009, Zimbabwe abandons its own currency entirely. Dollarization was announced, a final admission of the national currency's failure. The timeline from first major controls to currency abandonment, less than 4 years. Zimbabwe moved through stage 4 faster than Venezuela because they had less international support and more aggressive, immediate controls, providing a chilling example of accelerated economic destruction. Think it can't happen in developed countries? Think again. America has gone into stage 4 twice in modern history, demonstrating that even robust economies are not immune to the desperate playbook when political will override sound economic principles. These examples serve as critical warnings for investors and citizens in any nation. 1933, gold confiscation. April 5, 1933, FDR signs Executive Order 6102, making it illegal for American citizens to own gold coins, gold bullion, or gold certificates. This was a direct criminalization of an alternative store of value, a classic stage for maneuver. The penalty for noncompliance was severe, a $10,000 fine, equivalent to $230,000 today, and up to 10 years in federal prison. Americans had until May 1st to surrender their gold to the Federal Reserve at $20.67 per ounce. After collecting the gold, the government revalued it to $35 per ounce, a 69% increase. The Treasury profited billions from the forced sale and immediate revaluation, effectively confiscating private wealth under the guise of economic stabilization. That's Stage 4, Step 6, criminalization of alternatives, executed with chilling efficiency. 1971. Nixon closes the gold window. August 15, 1971. President Nixon announces 3 temporary measures. 1. Close the gold window, and dollar-gold convertibility, severing the last link between the dollar and a tangible asset. 2. A 90-day wage and price freeze, a direct price control measure. 3. A 10% import tax, aimed at protecting domestic industries. The 90-day freeze lasted 1,000 days. It created gas lines due to price controls on fuel, meat shortages due to price controls on food, black markets, and stagflation, inflation plus stagnation. Americans waited hours for gasoline. Some stations opened only certain days. People woke at 4 a.m. to queue for fuel. Why? Because price controls don't work. Ever. Even in America. These weren't third-world dictators. These were U.S. presidents, using the same desperate playbook. These historical precedents are crucial for economists to analyze, demonstrating that the fundamental economic laws governing supply, demand, and currency value transcend political systems and national wealth. So where are we now? Are we entering Stage 4? This is the urgent question for investors, citizens, and economists globally. Let's look at the evidence objectively, recognizing that the signs can be subtle before they become undeniable. In developed economies, not yet in Stage 4, markets still function with relative freedom. Capital mostly flows freely. There are no widespread, systemic price controls. However, complacency would be a grave error. But we're seeing precursor signs. Rhetoric. Politicians blaming greedy corporations for inflation, Step 1 rhetoric. This narrative prepares the public for interventionist policies, deflecting from monetary and fiscal policy failures. Experimental controls. Some jurisdictions are discussing rent controls, pharmaceutical price controls, and windfall taxes on energy companies. These are localized, targeted price controls, testing the waters for broader application. CBDC development. Central bank digital currencies would enable unprecedented government control of money flows, potentially allowing for direct implementation of capital controls, negative interest rates, or even expiration dates on money. This technological leap could accelerate Stage 4 measures dramatically. Emergency powers normalization. Post-2020, emergency powers have been used extensively, setting a dangerous precedent for government overreach in times of crisis, whether health-related or economic. In emerging markets, multiple countries are already deep in Stage 4. Argentina is implementing price controls and currency restrictions, again, a recurring pattern in its economic history. Turkey is grappling with severe capital controls and currency intervention as its lira continues to depreciate. Pakistan is under IMF-mandated currency controls, a sign of external pressure to stabilize a failing currency. Multiple African nations are experiencing varying degrees of capital and price controls, often in response to debt crises and currency depreciation. The pattern, Stage 4, is always preceded by Stage 3, accelerating inflation that governments can't control. If inflation persists or accelerates, Stage 4 measures become politically inevitable as governments seek to appear decisive. The warning, governments don't announce we're entering Stage 4. They announce temporary emergency measures to protect citizens. This framing is crucial for public acceptance, masking the true nature of the interventions. If you hear, greedy companies causing inflation, temporary price controls, limits on currency movement for your protection, emergency economic powers, you're not in Stage 3 anymore. You're in Stage 4, and Stage 5 is coming. This is a critical analytical distinction for anyone monitoring economic stability. Why does stage 4 always fail? Why does every government that tries this end up in stage 5? The answer is fundamental and unwavering. Because you cannot repeal economic reality by decree. This is a core lesson for economists and a vital warning for citizens. Price controls create shortages. Always. It's not a political statement, it's mathematics. If you force prices below market level, producers stop producing. Sellers stop selling. Goods disappear from official markets and appear in black markets at much higher prices. Example, Venezuela mandated chicken at 60 bolivares per kilo. Market price was 600 bolivares. Chicken disappeared from stores. It appeared in black markets at 800 bolivares, higher than if there had been no controls at all. This is the iron law of supply and demand asserting itself. Capital controls create capital flight. Always. Tell people they can't move their money, and the wealthy find ways to move it anyway, often through illicit channels. The middle class, who can't hire lawyers and accountants, get trapped, their savings eroding. This leads to a brain drain and a loss of productive investment, further crippling the economy. Rationing creates corruption. Always. When government controls distribution, whoever controls the distribution system becomes powerful. Food becomes a political weapon. Loyalty gets rewarded. Opposition gets starved. This system breeds inefficiency, injustice, and a deep sense of resentment among the populace. Forced conversions destroy savings. Always. Exchange your old currency for new currency at our rate means we're confiscating 50 to 90% of your wealth. Legally, this is a direct wealth transfer from the public to the state, often wiping out generations of savings overnight. Historical forced conversions. Germany 1923. 1 trillion old marks equals 1 new mark. 99.999999% loss. Argentina 1985. 1,000 pesos equals 1 austral, 90% loss. Brazil 1994. 2,750 cruzeiros equals 1 real, 99.96% loss. Venezuela 2018. 100,000 bolivares equals 1 sovereign bolivar, 99.999% loss. And here's the cruelest part. These measures are sold as solutions. We're protecting you from inflation with price controls. Result: shortages in black markets make inflation worse. We're protecting the currency with capital controls. Result: currency collapses faster as confidence dies completely. We're ensuring fair distribution with rationing. Result: corruption and starvation. Every stage for measure makes the crisis worse. Every single one. But governments can't admit failure. So they don't retreat. They advance into stage 5. Here's what you need to understand about stage 4. It's the last stage where you have any control over your preparation. For investors, citizens, and economists, this is the critical window for action. In stage 5, hyperinflation and total collapse, it's too late. Currency is dying by the day or hour. Banks are closed or worthless. Borders may be closed. Assets are frozen or confiscated. Stage 4 is the final warning. And it moves fast. Breathtakingly fast. How fast stage 4 moves into stage 5. Rome, 301 to 305 AD, 4 years. Weimar Germany, 1922 to 1923, 18 months. Zimbabwe, 2005 to 2008, 3 years. Venezuela, 2013 to 2018, 5 years. Next crisis, potentially 12 to 24 months with modern technology. With digital currency, instant communication, and global financial networks, the next stage for somewhere will likely move faster than any before. The speed of information and capital movement means economic crises can accelerate at an unprecedented pace. When price controls are announced, you don't have years. You have months to convert cash to hard assets. Think precious metals, real estate, or other tangible goods that retain value. Reduce debt or strategically leverage it. High debt becomes unsustainable in hyperinflationary environments. Diversify currencies and locations. Hold stable foreign currencies or consider assets in more economically secure jurisdictions. Build skills and community. Self-sufficiency and strong local networks become invaluable. Stock essentials, food, water, medicine, and other necessities. Create multiple streams of income. Diversify your financial resilience. Because once stage 5 hits, none of these options exist anymore. Stage 4 is the door closing. You can still act. You can still prepare. You can still protect yourself and your family. But the door is closing. And when it slams shut in stage 5, you're on one side or the other. In our next video, stage 5, you'll see what happens when the door closes. When currency dies not by the month, but by the hour. When savings become worthless overnight. When society begins to fracture. Stage 5 is the nightmare scenario. It's also happening right now in several countries. And the historical pattern shows. Once stage 4 begins, stage 5 is 12 to 36 months away. You need to watch stage 5 immediately. Not because I'm fear-mongering, but because understanding what's coming is the only way to prepare for it. History doesn't repeat because it wants to. It repeats because people ignore the patterns until it's too late. Stage 4 is active right now in multiple countries. The measures are being implemented. The door is closing. The question is simple. Which side of that door will you be on? Click to stage 5. Learn what comes next. Because it's coming faster than you think. Stage 4 is the final warning. Stage 5 is too late. Watch stage 5 now. The pattern always repeats. Are you prepared?